I was involved in the interviews, as was Mr. Hagan, former assessor and the assistant city manager, and we all agreed on the number one candidate. Subsequent to that, we've also gotten another estimate from Hennepin County, revised slightly. They're now saying their cost for 1996 would be $53,606, and they estimate that the 1997 cost would be $54,941. The cost, if the City Council goes along with hiring the assessor, with 3 months of the former assessor, 1 month of Hennepin County assistance, which we're presently receiving, and 8 months for the proposed applicant, cost would be $56,881. That would include a $125 a month car allowance, various fringe benefits, required classes, licensing, and memberships. Also estimated that the cost for 1997, which would include a 2.5% cost of living adjustment, would be $58,845. Might add that in interviewing this candidate, this person currently also provides a lot of computer backup for other staff members in the Hennepin County Assessor's Office. We believe that if this individual had additional time, he would be of value in providing other services to the city. If there are any questions I can answer, I'd be happy to do it. As with the assistant city manager, who's been more involved in the process than I have.
Are there questions?
I have two questions, and I have two concerns, I guess. First of all, I applaud the city manager and assistant city manager and the new city manager and the work that they've done on this, and I'm certainly satisfied with what they've done, and the comments I've had from Marcia set my mind at ease that we're going to get one of a good assessor. I have two concerns, and simply because, and these concerns are the 15-day vacation and the $125 a month allowance. I think we have to take into consideration when we hire a new department head and also an employee that what the present employees are getting, and they all started with 10 days vacation, and I think that's where he ought to be able to start. And our present assessor was having a $50 a month car allowance, and I think we ought to either start at that or go on the mileage. Those are the two things I'm concerned about, and I would like to see those adjusted.
Marcia, do you have any comments on either of those two concerns?
I'll address the car mileage first. The second meeting that I had with this candidate to try and come to an agreement on salary and answer his questions about class reimbursements and things, we talked about the car allowance, and I did express my concern to him that that was a jump in the car allowance, and that I wondered if we shouldn't keep track of the mileage on a per mile compensation reimbursement. He told me at that time that he had driven around town and calculated everything out, and he felt that it was, he didn't see any way that it would come in below $125 a month on average with the amount of field work he thought he would have to do. And he felt that that was fair compensation, and that, you know, he would rather have a monthly car allowance rather than have to, you know, keep track.
Needed scientific advice to help children to cope with a new modern industrial civilization. Millions of dollars were poured into establishing
include the 3 out-of-town meetings a month that the assessor would attend out of town, meaning Eden Prairie or downtown Minneapolis, not far out of town, and the 2 out-of-town conferences up in St. Cloud that they attend for their classes. So I don't know that it's going to be a deal breaker. I just know that we did discuss it. I did try and push keeping track of the mileage, and the candidate felt that 125 was fair. As far as the 10 days of vacation goes, I know when you switch jobs from one place to the other, there are often changes that have to occur. This person is currently earning 28 days vacation a year at Hennepin County, and he had originally talked about coming in at 15 days vacation for 2 years and then go up to 20 days vacation at that point. I told him that that was definitely unprecedented, that there had been 2 other cases, to my knowledge, where we had brought in somebody, one being the city manager and the other being the development director, that were brought in at 15 days vacation when they came from other cities where they had considerable banks. Again, I don't know whether that would be a deal breaker for him, but that is just a report to you of our conversations that we had on these subjects. And when I talked to him the last time about the 15 days, I did let him know that I knew that the mayor had expressed her concern with that 15 days, and that did seem to be a lot to start with. And I told him that certainly he would be expected to stay at the 15-day vacation rate for the full 5 years, as everybody else that attains that level.
If I could just address the mileage part. I think when you go to St. Cloud or even Eden Prairie, you can put in an expense account for that type of thing. You know, we're 2.7 square miles from one end to the other, and I know it'd be a pain in the neck to keep track of your mileage if you're going around the city type of thing. Frankly, I think 125 is too much also. But I am willing to have a period where he keeps track, and if he can prove that he's spending that much over, I don't care, 3 months, 6 months time, whatever's fair, I'm not hung up on that. I would entertain more. But you know, 125 is a lot if most of your activity is in a compact little town. Can somebody convince me otherwise? He probably could if he were here, I'm sure.
That's kind of my feeling, Mayor. When you figure out 29 cents a mile, you can drive quite a bit around the town for $125 a month. And I think that you have to, and I know I've been, my problem is that when this hits the press or hits I have to justify this, and it's sometimes you can get a lot of heat from your residents that you're representing if you can't justify this. And quite frankly, like you, I can't see, he's got to do an awful lot of driving and not very much assessing to use $125 a month.
That'd be about 400 miles a month.
That's tough. As I say, I'm not against him putting in an expense account for longer trips, but I don't know how they can add up. If he's going to, is it 2 meetings a month, or once a year to St. Cloud, or twice a year to St. Cloud?
Yeah, it's twice a year to St. Cloud and 3 meetings a month in the metro area. And again, certainly, if the council's position is to say, you know, we will certainly look at the facts, but we want you to track all this mileage and show us that this is justified, and we're willing to be fair and pay what's fair.
I would like to do that sort of thing. however it's set up, and review it again. Somebody indicate a timeline, 3 months, 6 months?
Well, I would think, Joy, that it ought to be at least 6 months because
To
we have
even
the
out.
consideration, the out-of-state, of St. Cloud meetings and everything, so.
And as I say, I think we ought to pay that no matter what, you know, it's like going to a conference.
Yes, I agree.
And that's training sessions for him, and I encourage those sorts of things. It should never be an expense to him, and we benefit as a city from those training sessions, and they should be paid in full, over and beyond. And I say pay him for his mileage as it occurs in a 6 months period, let's say. And then if he wants us to review it again, I'm willing to review it in 6 months. Does that sound reasonable?
I think it sounds reasonable, and I'll talk to the candidate about it tomorrow. And as I say, I don't think that one would be a deal breaker. This candidate is taking a cut in pay to come work for the city of Robbinsdale, and I do appreciate that. I think there's a lot to be said for working in a nice organization like Robbinsdale, where you are your own department and you have a lot more flexibility in setting your schedule, and there are a lot of pluses, but he is, you know, we do have to consider where he's coming from as well.
The vacation part, I guess I remain that I did give in while thinking it over on the 3 weeks, but as Marcia stated, I think he has to fall in line with other department heads and not get more. He's enjoyed more vacation. That's the way it is out there, but that's not the way it is in Robbinsdale.
Well, I think that, again, excuse me but that's part of changing positions, changing jobs.
Right.
I mean, I've changed jobs and lost vacation too, but I've done it because I felt that someplace along the line I was going to improve myself, which I did, and that's one of the breaks of it. And I, again, when you start changing these rules that we've established, and where do you stop? I mean, the next guy wants 4 weeks, and the next person, excuse me, wants 4 weeks, and so on. So I'd like to see it stay at 10 days, as is policy.
How many years' experience does he have?
18 years with Hennepin County.
I
He,
think he's entitled to 3 weeks. But only at the rate, it should only appreciate at the rate our other department heads receive.
right, you're saying start at 3 weeks, start at 15 days, and then you'd stay at 15 days for a 5-year period, and after that, with the 6th year, he would get 16 days, and the next year, 17 days, and
If that's
up to
how
20 is the maximum.
If that's how we do it, yes.
That's how we did it with the city manager and the development director. Most of the other department heads worked their way up through the city system, and so as they hit the department head level, they were already at 3 weeks. So I don't know.
I think we have to keep one thing in mind. First of all, the development director that we
Is
have
this-
here is not a department head.
Right.
And secondly, it's not a permanent position. You know, it could be, we could phase it out in a couple more years. And so that was one of the things that was a given, because he may not be here 5 years. And because if things work out, and we've only got so much to develop, and once we get the thing rolling, you know, we may well phase that job out, and he knows it. And that was one of the reasons we gave him
Right.
15 days. So he's kind of in an island by himself, because he's not a department head, he's not a permanent, really, he's not a permanent position either.
Right, I guess I should say, you know, as an upper-level position in the city organization, most of the people in the positions have worked their way up through the ranks, and so this hasn't come up as an issue. Certainly, later on this spring or early summer, we are going to be looking at filling the city engineer position, and we may want to think about how we want to address that when that comes up as well. So anyway, I'm looking for direction about it, if you want to think about it and let me know where you want to go with the...
Well, you know how I feel. I like it to stay at 10 days, but whatever the... If we get that, if we go along with the mileage, like Joy is saying, and I'll vote for it, but I'd still like it to be 10 days vacation.
Madam Mayor?
Mr.
If
Holtz.
we had decided to contract with the county, none of these would have been issues. I assume they
That's
would have,
right.
they would have absorbed in their fee mileage and paying the vacations and everything else. And one of the advantages would have been, because we'd have been represented by a pool, I assume vacation wouldn't have been an issue. Somebody else would cover it. Excuse me. I have no problem with either of these. Excuse me.
Yeah, we would be represented by a pool. There, if we did go with the county, there would be one main person that would do our residential and one main person that would do our commercial. Those people would be out in the field. They would talk to us about having office hours if we wanted them to have office hours. But certainly they would be based out of Hennepin County and not out of the city of Robbinsdale. And so we really don't know how that would work out. You know, during the time that assessing is what do you say, when they're having their down period for assessing, in the case of having our own employee, this person would be available to help out with code enforcement or computer troubleshooting or, you know, a number of other items. This is, you know, this candidate is very capable of doing a lot of things. Whereas with the county, you'd be paying almost the same amount of money, and when they're at their slow season, you wouldn't have that person's services. So,
Madam Mayor,
Mr. Segaris?
as you remember, I was on the losing end of a vote last month I felt we should go with the county because I saw a lot of savings there, and I've been saying that, and I promised Marcia I wouldn't try to scuttle this, and I'm not doing that, so don't panic, Marcia. We would realize a lot more savings by going with the county. And it's not as great when you factor in what our former assessor was making after being here 21 3/4 years to what this person would be. It's still a significant amount of savings. And to justify the difference, I'm assured by staff that this person really is quite knowledgeable in computers, and I would really expect him to be put to that task, you know, in the downtimes of assessing that. We want to modernize our computer thing and help train the other staff people, help them modernize their own programs and get everybody in tune. And I can justify that extra money that way, and I really can. When it comes to these squabbling over the benefits, however, I mean, if our policies are set that it's so many days and it's so much per mile, then that's what it is. If he wants the job, fine. You know, either that we can go to the county and we can still save the money. Unless he's really such a whiz at the computer thing that we can't live without him, then, you know, we should go that way too. I know he's taking a cut in pay, and I know he's probably cutting in vacation, but this is a nice place to work. And maybe they're facing some cutbacks at the county level too, who knows? I won't vote against I'll support whoever we decide to hire, because I don't think they should come to work I think it should be a unanimous vote. But on the same token, I don't think we should have to bend over so backwards to accommodate somebody to throw everything else off kilter. If they're that good, you know, they'll rise through the ranks, possible. Maybe I'm wrong on that, but, you know, if maybe find extra work in that computer field or something. You know, I don't know if that's possible, but I'll go along, hire the person, even though I originally wanted county, but I don't think we really need to. I would only do it supporting that so much per mile on a 6-month basis and see where he goes on that. And stick with whatever the rated vacation schedule would be. I mean, if that's what it is, that's what it is. Because I think we are setting precedent.
Really, when you get somebody new, and you get somebody with experience for 18 years, I'm trying to put myself in that spot. I think they're entitled to 3 weeks vacation for an experience, and he's working in the same field. Maybe not for us, but it's not going to be that much difference. After working 18 years and getting 2 weeks vacation, I'm not saying what anybody's scale is or you know, what it should be. I don't think that's an unreasonable request.
Well, I'm just going to say one more thing in that.
We're hitting an impasse here. We're
Yeah.
starting to repeat
Yeah,
ourselves.
I just think it should be, and I agree with Bob that it should be what our employment policy is. If it's 2 weeks, it's 2 weeks. I don't like to say this, but I'm going to. We didn't go out and tell him to come here. He came to us. He answered our ad. He apparently looked at our city. He likes it. He likes what it is to be a one-man department. He likes the autonomy that he's going to get that he doesn't have at the county. I understand he doesn't like some of the problems that are occurring down at the county, and he's going to be in seventh heaven here, I think. And I think we've just got to stay with our policy. And our policy is 2 weeks vacation. And the only exception we've made is to the city manager. And I don't think, considering what we did to the development director, because it's a sunshine job, that we should take that into consideration, because all our department heads everybody starts with 10 weeks, 10 days, and that's it. And that's the way it should be. And just because he's worked someplace else for 18 years, Joy, I mean, doesn't mean that he should have that same right here.
Well, I'm wondering about our policy, if you'd repeat our policy. Do they have to work here and accrue so many days vacation? Nothing is given for experience when you get a new... We have not hired very many experienced people in our time. Most of them, as you say, have worked their way up through the ranks. So I guess I don't know what our policy is. If it's based strictly on working yourself through the ranks and being in this particular city so many years, I'm saying I think our policy needs a little bit of updating, frankly.
Yeah, that's what our policy has been for all new employees coming in that I've been involved with hiring. I certainly wasn't here when you hired your finance director 20-some years ago, and I don't know what you did when you hired that position. Or when you hired the city assessor position 21 years ago, I don't know what happened when those people started, whether they started at 10 days vacation or not. And when I try and think of anybody else that might have been hired in right to a management level position, I can't think of anybody.
I'm just trying to be fair. When I say this, I'm not trying to spend our money at all, but if, you know, I look at a person who has 18 years of experience, and our policy is based on practice that has gone on because we haven't hired any very experienced people. It might be time for a policy update in this particular case. I'm not going to argue it anymore, and I know, Mike, you had something to say.
One question about the car loans. Do any department heads here, not counting the city manager, have car loans?
The community development coordinator, the director of finance, the assessors had a car allowance, the park and rec director, the recreation supervisor, and then there are people that have cars available. The building inspector has a car, the housing and code enforcement people share a car, and the police chief has a car.
You mentioned that the previous assessor had a $50 car allowance.
Yes.
What are some of the others? Are any of them in this range of 125?
Let's see. I believe the $50 a month is what the recreation supervisor has. I'd have to check to see what the Park and Rec director has. I'm not positive of his. $50 a month is what the community development coordinator has. This position certainly goes out in the field more than the community development coordinator does.
When we had a city engineer, Lee, I believe, wasn't his in this range?
I think it would have been.
I personally don't think this is unreasonable at about 400 miles a month. If he's got a minimum of 3, maybe in Eden Prairie or something like that, I mean, that may be a third of it right there. And I don't think it's unusual. There may be some months that we aren't getting our money's worth, but other months it may exceed that, especially if you tie in a trip to St. Cloud. I'm not too concerned about that. The other issue is not an issue with me either. But it is with a couple, so
Maybe
we've got 4 here tonight.
Maybe I can take the information that you have. The appointment of a department head is with the advice and the consent of the city council. You would be approving, you know, the general concept, directing staff to go forward. We know what your position is, and we will do our best to stick to your position in finalizing this. And if we run up against a deal breaker, I'll certainly give you all a call and see if there's a way to solve an impasse. I don't know whether, you know, what will happen if I call up the candidate, and certainly I don't know whether he picks up this cable channel, but you know, certainly if he does, he'll know what your opinion is and where you're all coming from. But what we're looking for tonight is approving the appointment of this individual as city assessor for the city of Robbinsdale, and staff will continue to try and finalize these 2 items with him.
Okay. Any other discussion? Is there a motion then to appoint him, this individual pending working out a contract? Also move that. Is there a second?
Would you just mention those 2 things in the motion, Mayor?
I move that we appoint the individual suggested by staff as city assessor pending finalizing an agreement on car mileage and vacation.
I'll second that.
Any other discussion? All those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That motion is carried. Thank you, Marcia. Are there any administrative reports before the council?